Hi, I'm Kaylee, and these are my top 5 favorite classics of all time. Not even kidding, this is the list. This is the list. In case you didn't know, Books from K's is a charity that donates books to missionary kids all over the world. If you want to donate to the kids, you can do so at GoFundMe.com. There's a link in the description and a button at the end of this video where you can donate to the kids. This list doesn't usually change very much. Every decade, I'll kind of go back and say, do we want to change anything on here? Or does it look pretty good? So there have been some changes in recent years. So it's definitely time to update the list. For a long time, when I was a teenager, Jane Eyre was at the very top of this list. And it's kind of been bumped down a little bit. It's still on the list, but it's not, the top favorite classic of all time. It's on the list, but, it's been demoted a little bit. Jane Eyre is actually number 4 on this list. How did I get on? Wait, we need to go back. Number 5. I got them out of order or something. Number 5 on this list is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I am falling more and more in love with everything written by Elizabeth Gaskell, but my 2 favorite novels by her are North and South and Wives and Daughters. North and South makes this list because of John Thornton, who I've been saying for forever is my soulmate. John Thornton and Margaret have such a lovely, lovely romance. It's one of those where they hate each other at first and they're always fighting, and then they begin to see one another's good points and they fall in love. It's also a wonderful social commentary about work situations in the Industrial Revolution. There is child labor. There is a strike that happens. There's a lot of worker versus employer politics going on. There's a lot of poverty. So it's amazing how there's this whole social commentary about the Industrial Revolution, and in the middle of it, there's these incredibly emotional characters and this lovely little romance, and there's this mystery, and there's so much in there. It's just so good. And then number 4 is Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre used to be my favorite, but in recent years, it has gotten to be more and more where I'm just annoyed with Mr. Rochester. He really is a jerk. And he's emotionally manipulating Jane. And, yes, he has that, smoldering melancholy thing going on. But, that attracted me when I was a teenager. But as I've grown up and matured, I've that's not attractive. You're just a jerk. You're just being manipulative. So it does get demoted because of that. But Jane herself is possibly my favorite female character in all of literature anywhere. I love Jane because even when it's very, very tough, she does the right thing. It's more important to her to do the right thing, even when it costs her everything. She loses her home, she loses her job, she loses sort of her pseudo-family, she loses the man that she loves, she loses it all. But she does what is right and her conscience is clear, and then in the end, she gets it all back tenfold. She finds a newer, better family, and she gets the man she loves back, but he's a better man. This is really what reconciles me to the whole plot line of Jane Eyre, is that I believe that Mr. Rochester at the end truly becomes a better person. I believe that he has a change of heart and he's not a manipulative jerk anymore. The ending is not super clear about this, but in the way I imagine it in my head, Mr. Rochester is a whole new man. It's his redemption arc. And he's redeemed at the end, and he's a good guy. And he and Jane live happily ever after. The next 3, it's really difficult to rank. I love them all so much. It's really difficult. But in the number 3 slot, I think I have to put William Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. This is my very favorite of Shakespeare's plays. And you guys know I have read all of Shakespeare. I sat down and read them all. I'll leave a link to that video about me reading all of Shakespeare down below and probably upstairs here somewhere. I love Much Ado About Nothing because of the witty banter between Beatrix and Benedict and their hilarious little romance. I just think it's the funniest thing ever. I've reread it 5 or 6 times. It's just so fun. Number 2 on this list is Charles Dickens' David Copperfield. This is my very favorite of all of Dickens. I don't know why really, but David Copperfield just speaks to my soul. David Copperfield is an orphan. He goes to live with sort of an aunt, friend of the family kind of person. She is very eccentric and weird, and so he has sort of a funny kind of upbringing as a child. And I don't know, something about David's story just attracts me. I want him to succeed. I want him to do well. I want him to find love, you know? And eventually he grows up and becomes a young man and sort of falls in with bad companions. He falls to the temptations of the world for a time. But then, you know, his better nature gets a hold of him and he becomes, you know, a wonderful person. There's lots of mystery and just adventure, and there's a lot of like traumatic events and tragedy and mystery, and oh man, there's just so much going on in this plot, and I love all the characters. I am such a character-driven reader, and David Copperfield is a character-driven story. And my number one classic of all time, I don't know why I'm hesitating. It's like, it's so hard to rank these. I kind of wanted to put David Copperfield at number 1. Oh, no, okay. Number 1 is Alexander Dumas' Count of Montecristo. Now, I will say, I have not reread this in many, many years. It has had the number 1 slot for a while. Well, David Copperfield had the number 1 slot for a while. You know, it's so hard to, no, it's impossible to really say who has the number 1 slot. Okay. Count of Monte Cristo is another one that is, I mean, if you've seen it, it's long. It is over 1,000 pages long. It's an incredibly complex plot. This story is about Edmond Dantes, and he is falsely accused of something and thrown into jail, and he manages to escape, and he's trying to get revenge on the people who falsely accused him. There are so many facets to this story, and even though it's really, really long, it never feels long. Like the last time that I read it, which was like a decade ago, I mean, I must have finished it in just a couple of weeks, because you just get so immersed in the story, and there's so much going on. There's so much adventure and spies and bandits and oh my goodness, and duels and everything you can imagine. Pirates. I really, really need to reread it really soon. Anything you can imagine from a classic adventure, Count of Monte Cristo definitely has it. And that is why Count of Monte Cristo currently takes the number 1 slot. I do have a few honorable mentions that have been at various places on this list in the past, but they are not currently on the list. My very favorite book of Jane Austen's is Emma, and this is usually on the list, but I don't know, the last time I reread Emma, I was kind of like, yeah, Emma, blah, blah, blah. And I still love it, and it's still wonderful, and I will always, always love Emma. But somehow the last time I read it, the magic, you know, there wasn't that much magic as what I remember. Another honorable mention is Sir Walter Scott's Waverley. I absolutely adore Waverley. It is this Scottish adventure, and this young man visits Scotland and kind of gets embroiled in the middle of a war. I absolutely have to include in the honorable mentions a Wilkie Collins book, and my favorite Wilkie Collins is The Woman in White. Now, it's kind of between The Woman in White and The Moonstone, because I do love The Moonstone as well. But The Woman in White, there's this one storyline where this hero like rescues the damsel, and I just love it so much. And of course, there's all this creepy mystery and everything. It's just fantastic. And my last honorable mention is probably my second favorite Dickens, Bleak House. Although maybe my second favorite Dickens is Tale of Two Cities. It's so hard with Dickens. There's so many good ones. But Bleak House used to be quite high up on this list. And it might be again. You know, this list is changing all the time. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know, what are your favorite all-time classics? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.